Alright, today we are going to be doing a computer related video, which is something a little bit different for this channel, but I'm going to focus today on my video editing machine, and I want to put new thermal paste on my GPU. Now you might be able to hear the fans from it right now, but you can kind of see up here in the corner what we've got going on. My fan speed's all the way up at 86%. This is a custom fan curve, so the temperatures are pretty reasonable, 76 degrees C, but we're running the fans at almost full speed there, nearing 4,000 RPM in order to get that type of temperature. And in some of the applications that I run, it actually does run the fan speed at 100%, and the GPU temp ends up around 84 degrees or so. So this is my Valley benchmark score right now, 2424. Alright, so one thing I do want to try here, right now that custom fan curve would be disabled because I just closed the program that I used to do that with. And you'll see our temperature is coming back up here. So I'm going to let this temperature settle in for a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and start that benchmark again, and we'll see what this does without the custom fan curve. So as this is running the benchmark here, we're hovering around 80 degrees, it looks like, with the stock fan curve. Can definitely still hear that card. If I had to guess, I'd say that we're probably sitting around 50% fan speed at least. But I'll let this go and we'll see if the score is any lower. Alright, so this is the benchmark with that custom fan curve disabled, and as you can see, it is a decent bit lower at 2376. Mind you, we dropped from 2424. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this graphics card out of the computer and see what we can do here. I apologize for the lighting down here. I've actually got the light on the camera turned on right now in order to light this scene. Computer's still shutting down for the moment. It should turn off here in a minute. But anyway, this is the graphics card. It is an EVGA GTX 970. It is an SSC edition, which I believe has the ACX 2.0 Plus cooler on it. And just a little look inside the PC here. I've got a little bit of dust, but it's not anything too horrible. Probably need to clean out the filters in the front, but the card itself doesn't look too bad either. I'll go ahead and get this up on the table, and we'll take a look at getting the cooler off of this thing. Alright, so this is the card. My little warranty void if removed sticker is kind of falling off all on its own, so I don't know about that. But anyway, I'm hoping that I don't have to do anything too special to remove this cooler. It looks to me as though two screws over here hold on the bracket for the PCI Express bracket, I guess it is. And then these ones are for something else on here, and the cooler should actually come off just with the four main screws there. So they look to be just normal Phillips. So I'm just going to use a number 2 Phillips head screwdriver to undo these. And I don't think it's too critical when you loosen them, but I'm going to go ahead and go corner to corner. And these aren't real tight either. Keep the screws somewhere where you won't lose them. And theoretically speaking now, we should be able to separate the cooler from the board. There we go. And somewhere on here there's going to be a fan connector and potentially, nope, not another screw. Alright, so that is the GPU taken apart in 2 halves. So this thermal paste is still, well, I'm not going to call that good. It's kind of flaking off of there. So wanting to change this is probably a good idea. It's a pretty thick paste at this point. It feels more like it wants to crumble up than it does spread properly. So yeah, it's probably worth replacing this stuff. I'm not real sure what this is from. This looks like oil or something that's all over the kind of surrounding area of the GPU die. So I'm not real sure what that's about. Let me go ahead and clean the thermal paste off of both parts of this, and we'll put some new stuff on it. All right, so I'm going to try to use some cotton balls and a bit of isopropyl alcohol, which I'm just going to soak the cotton balls with. And we're going to start with the easy part because the CPU cooler isn't exactly a fragile piece of electronic. And as you can kind of see there, as I'm doing this, it's peeling off more than it is wiping off. So maybe my theory is valid that I have bad thermal paste on this GPU. Now, the one thing I don't really like about the idea of using cotton balls is that they have lint that's going to want to stick to stuff. So hopefully it doesn't cause an issue. I think it'll be okay. I just got to clean the lint off, I guess. Also kind of curious if this oily stuff around that plastic shroud is going to come off. Definitely doesn't look like it's going to want to come off of there. Alright, so I've got some cotton swabs now. I've just soaked the end of this one with alcohol. I'm going to try to get the stuff off that's around the GPU die here. Because I think if I hit that with the cotton balls, I'm just going to end up with lint everywhere. So I'm going to try to get the stuff off with the cotton swabs, but it's not real critical that I even get all of this off, honestly. And this seems to help a little bit if you kind of go over it and soak it in the alcohol first. It seems to soften a little bit and then come by and try to wipe it out. You don't want to go too hard on this because you don't want to be like wiping off all the little capacitors and things that are around that GPU die. So you just kind of have to be careful with this. Alright, so I think that's probably cleaned off well enough. You can see the GPU die there. Like I said, this is a 970 and we've got the GM204 code on that. Made in Taiwan apparently. So that is the chip itself. And now what we need to do is put new thermal paste on it. So I am going to replace the thermal paste on this with Arctic Silver 5. Now some people don't like Arctic Silver 5 because it's slightly capacitive. I don't think it's going to hurt anything here. If anything, it's not going to cause damage. I don't think it's maybe going to make it unstable, if anything. But usually what I see people do with GPU dies is just come in here and put a really thin X across the whole thing. So we're just going to go ahead and do that, and it's not going to take very much at all. In fact, this is probably way too much. Though the one thing with this is that you definitely want to have the entire thing covered. So you don't want to have too little on it. It's better to have it spill over the edge than it is to not have enough on it. So that's probably way too much, but it's fine, probably. All right, so now the trick is getting everything put back together again. So if you're in here and your cooler looks incredibly dusty or something like that, it's probably worth it to go and blow this out or clean the cooler up somehow. Though this actually looks pretty clean, so I'm not gonna bother cleaning this up any. I'm just gonna go ahead and stick it back together. Just remember to plug the fan header back in. For some reason, this board actually has a header over here for the fan, and then it's got another 2-pin connector for something else. I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, let's go ahead and put this thing back together. I'm not sure what the easiest method for this is. It might be to take this and flip it over on top of the cooler. That's going to be my guess anyway. First thing I'm going to do is get the fan connector plugged in. So this has kind of a a notch to it in the front on this cooler. There's a little notch on that, and then there's a notch where that goes into the PCI bracket there. So that's got to go there, and then this has to go down. I think that's there if I got the screws lined up, which they are. And then all we have to do is put the screws back in and see if this works. Now when you go to put these screws back in here, you're going to want to more or less just get them started first here. So get a couple of threads to catch, and then go to the one on the opposite corner. And just get it to the point where the screw isn't going to fall out. Do the same thing there. And really, I don't think these are supposed to be all that tight. That's what the spring is for. And then go back and just go in a couple of turns on all of them. We'll see what that looks like. Just gonna go ahead and tighten these so they kind of look like they're at an even height off the board. Can't imagine they're supposed to be very tight. They weren't tight when I pulled them out, so we're just gonna go ahead and put them about like that and see if this works. Alright, so the graphics card is stuck into the computer, power is plugged into it, the power supply is turned on, and the display is plugged in. So we're gonna have to give this thing a smoke test and see if it fires up here. So we should get a display output, of course, within a couple of seconds here. Yep, gigabyte little splash screen there, looking promising. Alright, so I have EVGA Precision X opened up again. Right now our GPU temp is sitting at 37 degrees, so that's looking promising so far. Of course, we haven't actually run anything, but we'll go ahead and go into Valley here, and we will see if the fans just completely spike up instantaneously. So far so good. I'll let you see the actually we haven't even gotten off of 0 RPM yet. There they go, we're starting to spin, 55 degrees. Now mind you, Arctic Silver is actually the thermal paste that the manufacturer recommends that you break it in for a while first. But you can see there, and I can tell you for sure, we're already doing a lot better than we have in the past. Usually the fans would just spin up almost instantaneously as soon as you put a load on the GPU. Of course, they are still coming up right now. We're coming up 43%. That's a lot better than 80. I'm going to go ahead and get the side panel to the case back on and let this run for a while and see how hot it gets. Alright, here we go. Our benchmark has finished and our score has improved a little bit. So 2493 over the old 2424. And more importantly, if we look up here, our GPU temperature is at about 70 degrees and our fan speed is around 66. It's been bouncing between 63 and 66, and sometimes it's dipped down to like 60. And we're spinning our fans at around 3,000 RPM now, which is still really quick, and it's definitely audible. Air conditioner's on right now as well, so you might not be able to actually hear the fans quite as distinctly over the air conditioner, but anyway, I would say that that's quite the improvement, and it should actually get a little bit better as that thermal compound breaks in. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is close out of EVGA Precision X, and that will disable the custom fan curve, and then I will run the benchmark again and see if that works any better. Now the results for this test are kind of interesting. Before, when we were running the stock fan curve, we were getting between 79 and 80 degrees. Now we're getting between 78 and 79 degrees, so not much of a difference temperature wise, but our score has gone up to 2434 as opposed to 2379 or something like that. So another interesting thing, before we changed the thermal paste, our score with the fan curve cranked up was 2424. So now, even though the computer is a lot closer to silent anyway than it is with my other fan curve, we are getting a higher score than we were originally with that 80% fan speed and near 4,000 RPM fans. So this has actually improved the performance by quite a bit. All right, so I would call that a success. So if you have an old graphics card and it's not quite performing as well as it used to, might be worth taking it apart and putting some new thermal paste on it. Though of course, try this at your own risk. Different graphics cards are going to come apart in different ways, and there is always the chance that you break something if you try this. So anyway, hopefully you guys found that useful and entertaining, and I'll see you next video, guys. Bye.